The psychology behind history's most infamous killers. What if the most terrifying monsters didn't hide under our beds, but behind ordinary smiles? What drives someone to cross the line between human and inhuman to take a life? Not once, but again and again? Are killers born with darkness in their veins, or does the world around them create it? For years, the question has plagued the public, psychologists, and criminologists. People who kill without regret have always fascinated and appalled humanity, from the gaslit streets of Victorian London to contemporary America. These individuals, John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Jack the Ripper, represent not only criminal activity, but also a deep hole in the human mind. To comprehend them is to look into the deepest recesses of the human psyche and hope to come back unaltered. All stories start somewhere. Many of the most notorious murderers in history have roots that go all the way back to their early years. According to studies, a significant percentage of serial killers had early life trauma such as abuse, neglect, or abandonment. Others grew up in unstable homes where violence was the norm, while others experienced sexual assault or physical abuse. A developing mind's perception of empathy, trust, and power is distorted by these early encounters. A child may come to link cruelty with strength if they are taught that pain is a sign of control. For some, these injuries linger in silence for decades until they manifest as horrifying violent acts. This is referred to by psychologists as learned aggression. Without boundaries, safety, and love, violence may be the only thing that makes a person feel strong or alive. However, trauma by itself does not produce a killer. Millions endure childhood maltreatment without ever hurting another person. It must be combined with something else, a deep psychological split, a compulsion, or a spark. A terrifying psychological condition, known as psychopathy, is at the core of many serial murders. Although a psychopath may appear to be charming to people around them and exhibit typical human emotions, they are actually completely devoid of empathy, guilt, or conscience. They are gregarious predators who put on a persuasive front of reason. In these situations, the distinction between violence and sex frequently becomes hazy. The notorious lust killers of the 20th century, such as Andrei Chikatilo and Jeffrey Dahmer, showed an almost ritualistic fixation with controlling the bodies of their victims. Domination turns into intimacy in their perverted reasoning. Killing is the culmination of a complex fantasy that has been brewing in their heads for years, not its conclusion. According to psychiatrists, these dreams are mental rehearsals, a private realm in which the murderer imagines dominance, control, and obedience. At some point, fantasy is insufficient, and the murderer performs it. Every murder becomes into a recreation of that fantasy, an effort to experience something genuine in an otherwise emotionless life. Could science provide an explanation for why certain people carry out such heinous acts? According to brain imaging research, certain murderers exhibit less activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of moral judgment and impulse control. Others exhibit anomalies in the brain's emotional center, the amygdala, which controls fear and empathy. Some murderers may not feel regret, empathy, or fear of repercussions because of a defective or underdeveloped emotional system. A serial killer's crimes frequently follow a ritualistic pattern as they develop. This is what investigators call the murderer's signature, the distinct psychological imprint that is left at each scene. It's the posing of bodies for certain people. Others view it as the taking of trophies, such as an organ, a piece of clothing, or a lock of hair. These behaviors are highly symbolic and not arbitrary. They prolong the killer's sensation of power long after the murder by enabling them to repeatedly recreate the act in their memory. Their inner turmoil is given order by the right. It turns what would otherwise be a simple act of murder into a kind of perverse art, a performance for one audience, oneself. For example, Jack the Ripper surgically disfigured his victims, extracting their organs in what appeared to be a somber ritual. His murders were planned, almost theatrical, rather than spontaneous. According to forensic psychiatrists, the killer uses this ritualization to bring structure to an otherwise pointless life. Serial killing is rarely static. It changes. The initial murder is frequently a test or an experiment. The murderer gains knowledge about how it feels, how the world responds, and how much power they have. They feel invincible when they are not apprehended. Every crime after that gets more sophisticated, bold, and vicious. As the killer's psychological need on violence increases, the interval between killings frequently gets shorter. Like drugs, it's an addiction, with each death providing a brief high that wears off and necessitates another. Ultimately, the killer is motivated by compulsion rather than free will. In this way, society both observes and takes part, supporting the myth while denouncing the deed. The art and science of criminal profiling, or forensic psychology, is what contemporary investigators use to fight this darkness. Profilers try to piece together the invisible mind behind the crime by examining crime scenes, victim categories, and behavioral trends. What does the murderer require from these atrocities, they wonder? What psychological benefits are they looking for? Dr. Thomas Bond, who examined the Ripper killings in 1888 and proposed that the murderer was a reclusive and mentally unstable man, was the first to use profiling. These techniques were codified decades later by the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit, which examined criminals like as Bundy, Kemper, and Gacy to find recurrent psychological traits. Although profiling helps to focus the search, it does not directly apprehend murderers. It turns confusion into understanding a mental road plan that brings investigators closer to the truth. Every one of the most notorious murderers in history provides insight into a distinct psychological pit. The charismatic narcissist Ted Bundy was a clever psychopath who employed charm as a tactic. He saw murder as a show of dominance and a game of power. By day, he entertained youngsters at gatherings. His story demonstrates the horrifying capacity of certain psychopaths to lead double lives, blending in perfectly with society while hiding unspeakable misery. Although the stories of each killer are unique, they all share psychological traits such as trauma, control, obsession, and a terrifying lack of empathy. One fact endures in spite of scientific and psychological advancements. Evil resists full explanation. We can track behavioral patterns, scan brain activity, and track childhood trauma, but there is still an unknown aspect of the murderer's mind, a black hole where reason breaks out. These realizations aid society in realizing how easily monsters can lurk in plain sight and assist psychologists in spotting warning signs earlier. Evil isn't always disguised. It occasionally shakes your hand, grins, and fits in perfectly with daily life. The bigger lesson is about us, not about murderers. Both brutality and compassion are possible in the human psyche. We safeguard the light by being aware of the darkness. What then qualifies as a killer? There is a network of forces rather than a single solution. Unpredictably, biology, psychology, trauma, and environment all come together. The serial killer is a reflection of humanity's most profound imperfections and unresolved traumas, not a mythical entity. Studying them is like gazing into the species mirror and asking, what makes us different from them? How thin is that line, too? Like the video, hit subscribe, and stay tuned. The next case will take us even deeper into the mind of madness.